and I will review how to do perpendicular bisectors, which you already know. So the first one is the steps to find a median of a triangle. So a median of a triangle is a segment that connects the vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side, or a midpoint of the side to the opposite vertex. So the steps are to find the midpoint, obviously, and then use the vertex that's opposite of it to figure out what the slope of this median is, and then use either of these points to write the equation. So what I would like you to do for these notes is first take a moment, you can pause the video. I have the picture of the triangle drawn right here. In a triangle PQR with vertices P, Q, and R, find the equation of a median RM. So it tells us it's going to start at R. Obviously, it's going to go to the midpoint of PQ. So the first step is to find this midpoint. So the midpoint of PQ comes out to be -1, 5. Why don't you guys take a second now to see if you could find the slope between point M, the -1, 5 that we found, and point R. Feel free to pause the video if you want to. The slope of the segment between point R and the -1, 5 that we found is -4. Now, to write the equation of the median, you can either use point M or point R to write your equation, because that's the line. I always start with point slope form, distribute slope, add the 5, and the equation is y equals -4x plus 4. So if I actually no, there's a typo again. So this is -4, add 5, this is 1, you guys. So it goes through 1, and then the slope is -4 over 1. So up by 4 left, I get my point right here. So this should be 4. I didn't distribute right here. Okay? Make sure your notes are completed. Make sure your picture is completed. And then we can continue to talk about the altitude. The altitude of a triangle is a segment that goes from a vertex and is perpendicular to the opposite side. So anytime you have a perpendicular in the problem, we're going to be doing opposite reciprocal slope. So the steps to find the altitude are: find the slope of a segment that the altitude will intersect. So basically find the slope of a side. Do the opposite reciprocal of that. Use the vertex opposite of that side and this perpendicular slope to write this equation. So that's what we're going to do on the next example. What I would like you guys to do is first graph this triangle, GEF. G is -15, -3, so it does go off the graph a little bit, which is okay. You can do a sketch of it. So take a moment to make sure your picture is accurate. And it says to find the equation of the altitude GH. So that means it's going to start at point G, and it will be perpendicular to side EF. That means we start working with side EF, find its slope first. So take a moment to find the slope. If you did it correctly, you should have gotten -5 over 2. Now what we need, because it's perpendicular, we need the opposite reciprocal slope. So it's going to be 2 over 5. We use the slope of 2 over 5 and the opposite vertex, which is -15, -3. If I substitute in for this equation, it's y plus 3, the perpendicular slope, x plus 15. Make sure you take your time to distribute, subtract 3, and the equation is y equals 2 over 5x plus 3. So if I was to actually graph it, 3 is right here, go up by 2, over by 5, but then if I go down by 2 and left by 5, down by 2 and left by 5, this would be the equation of the altitude. Okay? The third example, you guys already know how to do because we've done a bunch of these in class, the equation of a perpendicular bisector. So just to remind you, find the midpoint using the midpoint formula. Find the slope of the side. So now you're using the midpoint and the opposite reciprocal. It says negative, it means the same thing as opposite reciprocal of that. and use the midpoint and the perpendicular slope to write the equation. In this example right here, in the triangle ABC, with ABC looking like this, find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of side AB. Find the midpoint of AB is the first step. Find the slope of AB. Write the opposite reciprocal slope, use your midpoint and the perpendicular slope to figure out this equation. So if I was to go from the midpoint, up by 1 over by 2, up by 1 over by 2, down by 1, and left by 2, this would be the perpendicular bisector of this side. Make sure that all of your notes are completed. The answer key to this is also scanned as a PDF in Schoology. Thank you for listening.